no one's going to give us money, so we have to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. No support, no school, no teachers, figured it out on our own.
Success stories already in Ukrainian entrepreneurship ecosystems.
Create programs for the startups to develop and to conquer global markets.
I agree.
It's not going to be easy.
There will be in another 8-10 years, there will be Ukrainian unicorns.
The reason I respect the Ukrainian startup system so much is it started maybe in 2008. Natalia started it 7 years earlier at Stanford in 2001, but in Ukraine, where you say, when did these folks begin doing this? It was around 2007, 2008. They did it in an environment that not only didn't support startups, that tended to crush startups. And here's what they did on their own recognizance, okay? Our market is small. This is 2008, 2009. We gotta go global. No one's going to give us money, so we have to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, okay? And number three, to survive this storm, we have to create something that is different, hopefully unique, but if not unique, different enough. And we have to place our headquarters in another country, preferably in San Francisco. So how did this miracle happen? Okay? That's the story of GitLab. That's the story of Grammarly. That's the story of Creatio. That's the story of People AI. So while we're looking abroad, let's not forget that it was us who started doing this. No support, no school, no teachers, figured it out on our own. And so for heaven's sake, let's make sure that those examples live in our head right next to the Alibabas, the Didi Chuxings, and the Amazon.
Yeah, we have great success stories already in Ukrainian entrepreneurship ecosystems. And I have great admiration for Ukrainian founders because, especially now, many of these founders start in really adverse in the conditions of the war. They start their businesses and some of them are very, very successful. It's just, I think Ukraine is even forging a new breed of entrepreneurs. Right? Everybody in VCs in Silicon Valley, for example, loves entrepreneurs from Israel.
Yep.
Because they're tough, because they live under the threat of the war, right? Yep. Well, actually, yep. They do have the war now. But Ukraine already, for almost 3.5 years, there's another breed of entrepreneurs who actually operate and start their businesses yep. when they are being showered by bombs. Yep. And yep. that's really forging a new breed. So, and we have multiple Ukrainian entrepreneur success stories such as Ajax, Jobol,
Aurora, amazing, yeah.
Just the
Novapost with amazing service.
Yeah.
Ajax, which is amazing by doing hardware sexy and great again.
Yep. And knowing that vocabulary, sort of best way to do it is to get thrown into the fire or into the water, or whatever torture you prefer, because you adjust very quickly. But I always love to say that the most important person in the modern Chinese economy was Jack Ma. Every 16-year-old in China said, he did it. I can do it. I will do it. Well, I'm not sure we have one Jack Ma, but I know we have several. And the point that you made about our modesty, okay, and other characteristics.
Modesty is a good virtue, by the way.
It's
a very good virtue.
Is absolutely on the money. But I think what these examples are showing is that you can evolve who you are in an incredibly positive way, not throwing away the values that are so deep, and frankly, many of them are unique or a unique combination. But this doesn't mean that you can't grow into a world-class player.
And that's another thing, and I think with entrepreneurs who get to these personal talks by very successful entrepreneurs or go to a program like Stanford Ignite, it builds your confidence. And I've heard it firsthand from Ukrainian entrepreneurs. I was thinking about going that way, but maybe not today. And then I was asked a question by my professor, well, what holds you up from doing it tomorrow? And he thought about it like, nothing holds me up. I'm going to go and do it tomorrow. So, and the other thing that I want to say, talking about Silicon Valley and elsewhere. And the thinking now is, previously it was Silicon Valley is the mecca for high tech, and it still holds its status as such for high tech entrepreneurs. But what actually has been happening in recent years, and probably is a trend that Endeavor Network, actually, which is a global network, nonprofit network of entrepreneurs worldwide, is predicting that there will be decentralization of this global trend, and there will be successful, we already see successful unicorns in India, in Middle East, and we very much hope, and I believe there will be in another 8-10 years, there will be Ukrainian unicorns that will be sold on major stock exchanges.
Yep.
When I started Loika and Svitla, it was 2001, and the whole ecosystem was just forming. And look where it is right now, a very vibrant ecosystem, entrepreneurial ecosystem in Ukraine. And, within 10 years, I'm sure of it, we will have Ukrainian unicorns, and not one and not two, but in big numbers.
It's not the best system for building great businesses, and yet we did it. And now it's not an ideal time because there is a war, and yet we are doing it.
Despite.
And I think that that history from 1999 to today, when it was in spite of, yes, you can continue to have the modesty, but there are certain other muscles and capabilities and skills that you get that if you put them to work in the right way, you really don't have a sense of how good you can be until you try it.
Exactly. And there's been recently a conversation or, let's put it, an argument in the Ukrainian social media about the comparison of Ukrainian accelerators and acceleration programs. And there are people who are saying that Ukrainian acceleration programs are nowhere close to the, benchmarks like YC, 500 startups, Techstars, others, which is true. Right, but to compare these, two ecosystems, well, I'm just, putting in general Ukrainian and the benchmark, the global. I think it's wrong. This is a good benchmark that we have to, to become, or at least look upon them and try to be the best we can. But again, it's hard to expect from the Ukrainian startup ecosystem to be as developed, especially now, considering the way it was developing before their big war, and now in the midst of war, it's tough. But I really do admire those people who continuously develop all these programs and work with all these startups, although it does not bring a lot of benefits.
Well, it may seem to you like it doesn't bring benefits right now.
Well,
Trust me, there are benefits that will develop in the long term.
Over the time,
Every little seed that you put in,
that's where I'm heading. So I have a friend who once told me that if you don't do anything, well, nothing's going to come out of it.
You can predict the outcome.
Exactly. 100%.
I have 100% certainty that I know what will happen.
So, again, all these people who are working on the ecosystem, all these efforts that are put into developing, they will benefit. They will bring all the benefits in the future. And we might not become, YCs of the world, but we do definitely have, the great chance to become create programs for the startups to develop and to conquer global markets.
I agree.
It's not going to be easy.
But I always add the goal is to learn from it. Rediscovery of the wheel is incredibly expensive, but the goal should be not to meet that standard, but to beat it. Mm-hmm. Now I have to think differently, okay? And I'd rather have people say, okay, I'm here, that's history. Y Combinator is here. Okay, I have a hint for you. Y Combinator is not perfect, okay? I have a second hint. It is imperfect in many places. So a mindset is, okay, I understand, they're here, I'm here. But I bet you that within a period of time that will astonish you, I can meet and beat what that is. And how do I know that? Well, I look at Natalia, I look at Grammarly, which, by the way, is worth how much now? Because what we're talking about is organizing groups of people to do extraordinary things that are extraordinarily useful. And I think it's human nature that we forget about ourselves. People don't know the history of the best Ukrainian startups. So people, it's like Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos, okay? And this drives me nuts. Everybody knows Steve Jobs, okay? Good, I'm glad you know him. Do you understand Steve Jobs? Almost nobody understands the deceptions that he created, the brilliant tactical moves. He made everybody think it's all rock and roll, and he did more internal market research than anybody. He made everybody think it's all marketing, and he spent more time on the logistics and supply chain with China than anybody else. So everybody knows Steve Jobs. What did he do? And then the people who actually emulated him is even smaller. Ditto for Bezos and the Amazon culture. Ditto for Alibaba. Everybody knows Grammarly. Okay, great. How did they do it? I don't know. And then I won't go into Crazio and everybody else, but also on the big business side. Everybody knows Nova Poshta, right?
Yeah.
How did they do it?
Well,
and
no,
what
we
part
know
of
a
it
little
can,
bit more, but still not enough.
No. How did they do it? And what can I apply to my business?
Yeah.
Everybody knows Aurora? Okay. What did they do and how can I apply it to my business? And I think that's actually incredibly expensive because what Jack Ma gave 16-year-olds was the confidence that a Chinese person can do it. That's what that whole game was about. The confidence he did. He's like me. I can, I will. We have that. We'll have much more of it, but we have dozens of examples which can be understood and can be emulated, and they'll change your perception of yourself.
My question for you, Pan Adrian, because you have been at the onstart of the Ukrainian entrepreneurial system. You've seen it follow its course. And you have been a great enabler of Ukrainian entrepreneurs. And you have initiated and made happen multiple programs that have helped thousands of Ukrainian youth. What is your advice to Ukrainian entrepreneurs at this point in time? If you were to encapsulate it maybe in a short 2 or 3 points, sentences.
Great question. If you can't go to Stanford Ignite and San Francisco or some other program, replicate it as closely as you can by building a vocabulary of 10 to 15 case examples that you can do research on in a day and a half that show you how good I can become. Not just mention Amazon, understand Amazon, and ask the question, hey, he did 3 things that were really smart. Can we do them? answer is yes, yes, and no. Go with the yeses, don't worry about the no. That would be number one. Number two, I have a disadvantage, okay, because I'm operating in Ukraine and I haven't been forced to work in some of the toughest environments. So let me make the transition from happy talk and positivity to become a reality junkie. I know there are competitors out there. Let me find out. There's going to be bad news, but there'll be good news too, because they do two things that are smart. I don't need to reinvent them. I can do them. Ditto the same thing with the customers. And thirdly, because you said encapsulate, so I can't go on, have the guts to create a real vision of what you, a person of tremendous talent, wants to do to add value to your community, your society, globally speaking. What is it that you want to do? And the first cousin of that is, what is my mission? What is our mission? They seem soft, you can't touch them, you can't smell them, but they are unmistakable. And I'll just cite two examples of what makes them tangible. Sal Khan in 2006 decided to start Khan Academy, nonprofit startup, because he knew how bad education was and he wanted to help students get a better education. Where? Anywhere. 2006. Today there are 100 million students using Khan Academy every day. The ones who try are more, etc. In 2001, Jimmy Wales said, we can do better than the current encyclopedias, and started Wikipedia, okay? And you often talk about passion, obsession. He wanted to do it because he knew the value of information, especially if you can create a system with editors and cross-checks, etc. Today, Wikipedia has 125 million users. So when we talk about vision, when we talk about mission, it's not blah, blah, blah. It's what these people actually did. And the fact that they were nonprofit was irrelevant, okay? Who do I want to help? How do I want to do it? And can I get other people to join my team to make that happen? It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter whether there's a war. What matters is what you want to do and how you want to change reality. And you could do it. Your colleagues in Ukraine have started to do it dozens of times. Start there and then become unstoppable. Yeah, the last thing, впертість beats everything, and if you persist, you never know at the outset what a phenomenal impact you can create.